What's going on, guys? Alex with 81480C, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Kizer Knives Mini Begleiter. So this is a knife that I got in from my parents actually on Christmas. So this was a gift from them, and I have really enjoyed having this knife in the collection. It's a fantastic knife, a really good value in my opinion. A lot of good things going for it. And yeah, I'm glad it's in the collection. It'll never leave now, considering it's a gift from my parents. And I wanted this one for a while. So I think early last year is when I first set my eyes on it. And for the longest time, it was like hard to come by. I kept looking it up. I remember even talking to Brent over at Backpack P about it because he really wanted it. And I think he was even like looking into like overseas sellers for it and stuff like that. And for some reason, I don't know if it just got leaked like super earlier than it was supposed to, or if it just took a long time to come out, but these were hard to come by. So it was always kind of on my want list in the back of my head. And then I saw Brian over at Blue Creek Knives get them in, and that is where I believe my parents got it from. That's what I put on the list I gave my mom. They are currently not in stock on Blue Creek Knives, but I am going to leave a link to this specific knife on the website, give you guys all the stats and the specs and whatnot. And I'm sure Brian will be getting a new shipment of these back in soon. I think it's a pretty good model, good looking model, popular model for Kizer. So again, that'll be linked down below. And while you're on Blue Creek Knives, don't forget to use code 81480C for 10% off of your purchase. Helps you, helps me, helps Brian. It is a win-win-win. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into some materials here. And overall, this is a small knife. I knew obviously it's the Begleiter Mini. It's a small knife. I was a little worried it was not going to fit in my hands well, but it fits in the hands well. We'll get to that for the ergos, of course. But first things first, for materials, you guys can see it is rocking that beautiful frag pattern. Titanium scales, of course. You have dual thumb studs. You have a milled loop over style deep carry clip, which is really cool. I really like that Kizer did it that way because it's still, you're getting the functionality and, the usefulness of a loop over style clip, but you're getting, a nice milled titanium version of it. And I think it's the best of both worlds. I think more companies should start doing it like that. Combining practicality with sort of classiness is just a great thing in my opinion, and I think they did a really good job on this. Carries well. They did countersink the screws into the scale, or into the clip, but I would have loved to seen the clip be sunk into the scales, but it is what it is. Of course, they are shadow box liners, I think is the correct way to call these. They aren't, flush, or they aren't seated into the scales, which is okay. You have a lanyard tube or lanyard hole back here. Knife is on bearings. M390 on the blade steel right there. If you guys can pick that up or not. Get the right reflection, but M390. Then it says Begleiter Mini, and I believe the designer is Anso. So you guys are seeing that right there. And another good thing about this knife is it is a hollow grind. So this comes down to a ridiculously thin edge. From the blade stock, it's still not very thick at all, but it just comes down to a really thin edge, and this thing was really sharp out of the box, so that was nice. But as for internal milling, as far as that goes, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets on the show scale side, and you have nothing on the lock bar side except for this relief cut there on the lock bar. If you guys are able to pick that up or not, but you guys might be able to see it right there. But the knife is very lightweight, coming in at 2.79 ounces. The blade length is 2.91 ounces, or 2.91 inches. So it's a sub, I cannot talk today, guys, I'm sorry. A sub 3-inch blade. Nice and small and slim. Thought I heard someone coming up my driveway. But yeah, for materials, I believe that's everything. Liner lock, of course, with a nice lock bar cutout right there. Gives you great access to the liner lock. And yeah, that's all for materials. So next up is action. And before I talk about action, I want to take a quick sip of water. very thirsty today for some reason, but that's neither here nor there. So action with these dual thumb studs. I will say the detent on this knife is stout. You guys might not be able to tell from me doing this, but it just thunders out of there, guys. I mean, it takes a lot of, I mean, not a lot of pressure, but it's definitely a very stout detent, which I like to see. Gives it great action. The acoustics are, they're okay. You know, they're not the best. They're kind of dull, kind of muted a little bit. But that's okay. You know, acoustics aren't a huge thing for me. I just like to point them out to you guys. But middle finger flick, flies out of there. Drop is super smooth on these bearings. Drops and hits your nail. You can shake it a few times close. You guys can even see if you look close enough when you drop it to your nail. Now that time it didn't do it, but see, now that I'm talking about it, there we go. Sometimes when it hits your nail, it bounces just because of how smooth it is and how much force is coming down, which is interesting to think about when you have such a small blade. But middle finger flick works super well. Thumb flick works well. You can pointer finger. There we go. A little bit tougher on that one just because it's a smaller knife and you kind of have to dig your finger into the thumb stud a little bit more. But slow roll works very nicely. Very fidget friendly knife. And honestly, Kizer has really been killing it recently. I haven't handled a lot of their new stuff, but the stuff that I have handled, as well as watching, you know, countless reviews of Kizers that my friends do on their channels. You know, their action has been really, really good recently. And this doesn't surprise me with this one, especially, you know, it's impressive with such a small knife how fun it can be to flip around and fidget with. But like I said, that detent is super stout, which is it's a pleasant surprise because a lot of knives, I think nowadays, a lot of knife companies kind of tune their detents to be on the weaker side. You know, and I'm not a detent snob or a detent diva like Kev is, but I can appreciate a good stout detent, and this is definitely one of them, and it really fires out of there. So action is very, very good. Next up is ergos. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I was a little bit nervous about me being able to fit on this knife and being able to, you know, be comfortable with it, just because of how small it is. But as soon as I held it, those qualms went away. I just get 4 fingers on here, but you have a nice natural restriction point here with kind of an indented area, and then it tapers off. It gets a little bit chunkier towards the back, but then on the top part of the knife, as I was holding it upside down, the top part of the knife is just straight back, and then it tapers off towards the end. The Begleiter's been around for a while, so you guys all know pretty much the shape of the Begleiter, whether it be the Begleiter, Begleiter 2, Begleiter Mini, the Begleiter XL, Begleiter button lock, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's all relatively the same shape, and it's very utilitarian, you know, very simple, but just kind of lock myself in here to the natural restriction point, and the rest of my hands just follow suit. But it's very comfortable. I can feel the pocket clip a little bit in that method, but again, you know, it's kind of a qualm with loop over style deep carry clips is you're always going to be feeling them a little bit. You know, I can feel it, but it definitely doesn't cause much of an issue to where it's going to be a super, you know, duper hotspotty issue. And this is the type of knife that you're not going to be, at least I'm not going to be hard using this. This is, in my opinion, more of a gentleman's folder, more of kind of a dress up, classier carry, not something you're going to be going out and beating on and like hard using in the field. Could it take that? Absolutely. I'm sure, you know, Kizer makes good knives with good materials. So I'm sure this could take a beating, but, you know, just my personal opinion, this is better suited towards, you know, tossing this in your pocket on date night, or, you know, going to a wedding, or just having a little bit, you know, a little bit higher end of an EDC, just due to its size and, you know, shape and materials and stuff like that. But you can choke up, so you don't really have a finger choil up here, but you have enough area to where if you're going to be doing something precise and you want a little bit more control over your knife, your middle finger goes into that restriction point right there. You kind of lock in here, and then your pointer finger wraps right around. It's you know, part of the handle, it's part of the blade. You know, it just kind of wraps around right in here, and that's a comfortable way to hold this knife. and your thumb extends, mine does at least, almost out to the tip of the knife here. But it's comfortable if you're going to be doing something, you know, precise, and you have to be careful what you're cutting or what you're cutting around. You have a very good control over this knife. That kind of alleviates a pot clip hot spot thing a little bit, because you're moved forward off the hot spot off the pot clip. So it alleviates a little bit of that. It feels a little bit more comfortable. But again, even when you're choked back here, it's still not too much of an issue, as I get an itchy leg. Too much of an issue of where it's going to be causing you, you know, pain or anything like that. But and the frag has a great texture to it. I really like that. So that adds a lot of grip as well on both sides. It's a pretty slim knife overall, but feels great in the hand. I really like the pinch grip on this knife. I just pinch it here, either with my pointer finger, my thumb, to rip through something, or if I want a little bit more control that way. One of my favorite grips for a knife, you know, any knife really, is thumb and the middle finger on the kind of the pivot area, and then I take my pointer finger up here on top, and this gives me a very good directional sort of pivot to, you know, slicing through a package, a box, cutting out a label, anything, you know, sort of specific that I need more control around. This is one of my favorite grips of all time. I just love the pinch grip with the overall, or the overhead finger for control. Just a really good and favorite one of mine. So, but all in all, you know, with the frag tie, it's very comfortable and adds a good amount of grip. The pot clip does stick out a little bit, but again, you know, it is what it is with loop over style clips. You guys all know about it. It's not like it's a, you know, a huge issue, but it is what it is. But all in all, all in all, ergos are pretty good. So next up is carry. And I've already stated, I think this is, so it's 2.79 ounces. I apologize, guys. I'm not picking my nose. It's just my leg got itchy, then my nose got itchy. Now I need a drink. I'm all over the map today, so I apologize about that. I'm actually getting low on water here, so I'm gonna have to get some after this video. But ergos, it's a 2.79 ounce knife, so it's very lightweight. Overall length is, I guess that really wouldn't matter with the carry, but overall length, if you're wondering, is 6.64 inches, and then handle length is 3.73 inches. So it's a sub 4-inch knife, sub 3-ounce knife. This thing carries phenomenally well. It is tapped for lefty carry as well. I did forget to mention that to you guys. Apologize about you lefties out there, but swap it lefty or righty, which is good for you guys. But it carries very, very well. You pop it down in your pocket. You don't have any flipper tab. You don't have any jimping up here to catch your fingers on if you happen to be going, you know, my patented going into your pocket, getting medicine, chapstick, coins, whatever it may be. You have nothing to worry about with catching your finger on. Sorry, I'm not flipping the camera off. I'm using this as a guide, but carries well. I've only carried this in my front right pocket of my jeans, and I have tossed this in my gym shorts quite a few times when I've just been around the house. You know, if I go down to the basement, go out to eat dinner, and I've been fidgeting with it for the day, I usually toss it in my shorts. Carries very, very well there. And this pot clip, you know, drops in deep into the pocket. You have a little bit of knife sticking up out of your pocket, but I'm not, you know, it's nothing, nothing you can't handle. Gives you a little bit of extra purchase when you're pulling it up out of there. But the clip works well, has some great retention. And I really like, you guys, you know, I already stated this, but I really like how they combined the loop over style, you know, stylistics of a clip with the milled titanium clip, and they kind of made it, you know, best of both worlds. And again, I wish other people would take suit and kind of start, you know, portraying that and putting that into their designs. I think it's a really good step in the right direction, and I'm curious. I think Kizer has been doing this on a couple of their knives. I believe like the new Fat Carbon Cormorant has one. I believe the new Fat Carbon Original has one. So I think they are starting to use it a little bit more, but I just think it's cool, and it carries well. So that leads me to my final category of price point and what I recommend this knife. Price point on this from what Blue Creek Knives, excuse me, is $139.99. So $140 with this. And when it's in stock, you can use my code, you can use Kevin's code, you can use someone's code to get 10% off. So that drops you down to like between 125 and 130, I think, if I'm doing my math correctly. That's a really good deal for this knife. I think even the full price is good. You know, you're getting really nice frag tie scales on both sides. Has a great texturing to it. You're getting a hollow ground M390 blade that's, you know, very usable. I love the shape of the blade. You know, if you guys have handled a Begleiter before, you know, it's the same thing, just mini, but on bearings. You know, very snappy detent, great fidget factor. All in all, just a fantastic form factor, a fantastic package. And again, I think if you had, I mean, even if you didn't use a code, I think $140 is still very, very adequate. I'm surprised it's not more, to be honest with you. I think Kizer's, you know, putting out a great value at a great price, so I can absolutely recommend it. You know, it's one of my smaller knives that I have in the collection, but I love tossing in the pocket. It's always a treat when I have it. And again, I think it's a great knife for dressing up, for, you know, going out on a date night, you know, if you're in a wedding. But again, if you want to hard use this knife, if you want to go out and whittle a stick with it and beat on it, you know, I'm sure it would handle that as well. But I just tend to, you know, see it as more of a gentlemanly type carry. But one thing that I do kind of want to, you know, point out, I've never handled this knife. I've never experienced this knife, but I've wanted it for a while. It's always been on the checklist, and I've, you know, seen a ton of reviews, seen a ton of stuff about it on Instagram. But the Tactile Knife Co. Rockwall, either in their flipper, more so their thumb studs, because this directly correlates to a thumb stud knife. But to me, this is kind of a competitor to the Rockwall. It's about the same size. I believe the Rockwall blade is 2.84 ounces, 2.84 inches. So it's a smidgen longer, but it's basically the same size. You know, thumb stud knife. I feel like it's in the same category as the Rockwall. You know, I'm gonna hop on to the Tactile Turn website. Excuse me, Tactile Knife Co. website, and just get the overall specs, because now I've never directly compared the specs to one another. My brain was just telling me that they were similar, but yeah, so blade length is 2.84 inches, close length is 4 inches. So the blade length is a little bit longer on this knife, but the handle length, or the close length, is a little bit longer on the Rockwall. But in my opinion, it's a direct competitor to it. Of course, the Rockwall is made in the USA, you know, all that, and it's more expensive, which, granted, it's a great knife from what I've heard. I really want to get my hands on a golf ball pattern that they did a couple months ago. I was never able to get it at the time, but that's kind of been on my want list for a while. But, you know, I kind of got the feeling with this one, like, I don't necessarily need a Rockwall right now, because this is doing what the Rockwall would do for me. Maybe in the future I'll find one at a good price and steal it and pick it up. But I think it's not directly competing with it, of course, because this is a Chinese-made knife from Kizer, and you're talking about a USA-made knife from Tactile Knife Co. They're not in the same, you know, category price-wise. This is $140. The Rockwall is $299. You know, so again, there's differences, there's levels to it, but, you know, at the end of the day, if you take this knife and you take the Rockwall and you look at the similarities, dual thumb studs, you know, practically the same size, liner lock, like, there's a lot of things that go into it that I think are at least worth considering and worth thinking about. But I just want to point that out there. It's kind of been on my mind ever since I was starting to get amped up for the full review on this, and I wanted to, you know, talk to you guys about it. Let me know down below, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think it compares to the Rockwall? Do you think I'm crazy? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I think I gave you guys a good rendition and a good idea of how I feel about this knife. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Great price point all around, you know, great materials, just a really, you know, a great thing from Kizer. And they did just come out with a darkened tie frag mini Begleiter with 20 CV. It's practically the same knife, just darkened tie and a black wash and 20 CV, but M390 and 20 CV are practically the same thing. But yeah, so again, this will be linked down below in the description. Please go check it out on the website at Blue Creek Knives. Unfortunately, it is not in stock, but I still wanted to direct you guys over there anyway, to keep your eyes out when maybe it'll come back in stock. And don't forget to use code 814EDC for 10% off of your purchase at checkout. Helps me, helps you, helps Brian. It is a win-win-win. And then lastly, I do want to give my shout out for the video out to Corey over at Stafford's EDC. One thing we were talking about, if you guys saw last video, in the group chat that I'm in on Instagram, is we all sort of, you know, we kind of want to start shouting each other out in different videos and trying to build us all up and, you know, get us some more subs and more exposure and stuff like that. So last video I called out like I'm, you know, gonna street fight him or something. I shouted out Sharpened Blade, and now I'm shouting out Corey over at Stafford ZDC. So his channel will be linked down below. Very similar to Sharpened Blade and Corey and I have, you know, very similar numbers from subs. I believe we're both right around 850. Corey's a great buddy of mine. He's a fantastic dude. You know, we're both roughly the same age. Just Corey's a great guy. So go check his information out. Link down below. Go tell him I sent you, and go give him a sub. But I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.